So let's get started with the state of software development today. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have all seen this quote before. Software is eating the world, and it really is. It's becoming an industry disruptor. It's the differentiator for companies today. If you don't have the software, you don't have anything. There's never really been a better or more important time to focus on becoming a high-performing software team because, again, software is key. Let's just take a quick example here of how software has sort of changed lives and is becoming, the differentiator. One I like to use is the smartphone. So can you guys remember life before the smartphone? How would your day-to-day activities be different if you didn't have your phone? When I think about this, for me, I'd start off immediately on the wrong foot because my sleep activity tracker wouldn't be there to wake me up at the perfect point in my sleep cycle. I wouldn't be able to stream today's news from my speaker while I brushed my teeth. I'd have to wait for the weather report to scroll across the bottom of the morning TV show because I couldn't check my weather app, to see what I should wear for that day. Then, once I finally got out the door, I'd probably get lost or stuck in traffic because I couldn't use my, apps to navigate to find the route that has the least amount of traffic or the fastest route. Then lastly, I wouldn't be able to check HipChat. I wouldn't be able to see what my colleagues did on the other side of the world while I was sleeping. And then I couldn't give them an update before they went home for the day. So to recap, I'd be tired, less informed, lost, and probably late to work, and then my team wouldn't hear from me, until the following day. So that really does not sound like a day that I want to live. Smartphones and the software on it, they have revolutionized personal productivity. Another great example of software being an industry disruptor is the automotive industry. One of our favorite Atlassian customers, Tesla, is the perfect example of this. They have come up with a lot of really cool things, but one of the coolest is how they have written their software and how they can do over-the-air updates to their cars. So, for example, say you go to bed one night, and then Tesla, sends an over-the-air wireless update to your car. You wake up the next morning, and it has new features and functionality. Like, how cool is that? Like, what if they, added some self-driving things over the air? I mean, that's just really awesome. Cars really have become drivable computers. I mean, can you imagine what the automotive industry is going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years? I personally think that, kids born today may not even have to learn how to drive because everything will be self-driving. It's really crazy to think about. It's no wonder that automotives and software updates to cars have taken over things like the Consumer Electronics Show. It's becoming the big news. Of course, Tesla is not the only Atlassian customer that delivers software updates, over the air to their customers. Another awesome example is Cochlear. And Cochlear's implantable hearing solutions have changed the lives of over 400,000 people, and that's both young and old, by giving them the gift of improving their hearing. So that is really amazing. Like, that's an amazing achievement, giving the gift of hearing to someone who's never experienced before, all through software. As you look around, really almost everywhere, software is driving disruption. It's becoming a competitive advantage, and it's happening at an ever-increasing pace. Some of my other favorite examples that I don't have full images for are Uber, for taking over the taxi industry, or Airbnb for home sharing. All of these are happening so quickly and taking over the industry. This disruption, this innovation, productivity is being driven by some of the brightest and most visionary leaders in the world. Individuals like Steve Jobs, I'm sure you recognize this picture, is a great example. Perhaps one of the greatest CEOs of all time, the face behind one of the greatest turnaround stories of all time with Apple and the iPod and the iPhone. But, as great as Steve Jobs was, it took a team. It took a team to turn his ideas into innovation, into those successful outcomes, and, disrupt those industries. Innovation needs teamwork. It needs teams to be at their best and perform, at the limit of their potential. Another great example, Walt Disney. Teams drive innovation, and it's really a story of all ages. Behind Walt Disney, there was a team, and it brought his, imagination to life. Software gives us new perspectives, experiences, it changes the way we work, and in today, it's driving innovation across all industries. Now, because of this, there's a lot of increased pressure on these software teams to perform and work under, increasingly complex environments or changes. It's a really non-trivial task to be a high-performing software team in this increasingly competitive environment. Now, to keep up with this relentless pace of demand, for innovation, software teams have to be quick. They have to produce high-quality software, they have to do it fast, and they have to delight their end users with impactful new features. And this not only requires, software engineers, but also product managers, QA, designers, marketing, and they all have to work together like clockwork. Success today demands high-performing teams. Now, we're not telling anyone anything new here when we say teamwork can be hard. We all know that. But there are some, specific things that have arisen that high-performing teams must overcome in today's world. And those things are, communication. So there's feedback. And feedback comes in from all different stakeholders, product managers, design, QA, tech writing, marketing. And it can be tough to make sure that you're staying on top of all of that communication, let alone manage it all. So that's definitely a challenge in today's world. Context switching is another big one. Now, this is a very common struggle, especially for developers. But with so many systems required now to build and ship good software, it can be really hard to stay focused on the task at hand. Hopping between different tools and systems can be super disruptive and definitely a productivity killer. Next is distributed teams. Again, software teams today, they're located across the globe, and it can make staying in sync with one another a really big challenge. And that's not only for communication, but also, across the process as a whole. So for example, accessing a single code base that's stored in the US from locations around the globe can cause really slow and long delays. And that's definitely a productivity issue. Lastly, we have dependencies. So with all the various components that are getting built, managing those dependencies and maintaining end-to-end visibility across the entire team can be very complex. So for example, say you want to begin work on a task, but you know that this other thing must happen before you can begin work on that task. So how hard is it to track down the progress of that? Where do you go to find that information? How much time do you waste looking, tracking down that dependency? All of these roadblocks can be very frustrating for teams, and it can completely derail your productivity. For example, imagine, how stressful a situation like a customer calling in who has downtime might be for someone. And say the only person who knows how to fix this customer issue is available via email. And to make it worse, they never check their email. That can be totally demotivating. So let's talk about how high-performing teams overcome some of these challenges.